Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Mary, seek the wisdom.
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, good morning to everyone. And have you checked already your attendance in our Google Classroom? Kindly check your attendance there. And next week will be our midterm exam. And I hope that you have read already something, which is Republic. And actually, the midterm exam is still one-day exam. And it's essay. And of course, I'm going to ask you about the definition of justice in Plato's Republic. Definition of justice as proposed by Simonides and upheld by the Father and Son Polemarchus and Cephalos, and also the definition of Thrasymachus. And you can also, and I have also to ask about the definition of justice, particularly social justice for Plato. So we will continue our class about Plato's theory of justice, because the Republic talks about it. That is the very core and the foundation of the work. He talks and investigates about justice because justice is so important in all social institutions. As what I have mentioned already, the definition of the comment of John Rawls in his book, A Theory of Justice, and he says that justice is the first virtue of social institutions, as truth is of systems of thought. So they cannot be compromised. So justice, therefore, is so crucial because it is the first virtue in all social institutions, and it is also what Plato tries to demonstrate in his book, The Republic. As I have already mentioned, the principle which we can learn from Matthew Lippmann, a philosopher of education, contemporary. He just died in 2010 at the age of 91, I think. 91 or 90. He's a philosopher of education, and he mentioned a principle which we can actually use in trying to make a comparison between Plato and Aristotle. And Matthew Lippmann would say that Aristotle explicates while Plato demonstrates. Plato explicates, Plato demonstrates, or Plato shows while Aristotle explains. So it is coming from Matthew Lippmann's insight as he read also Plato and Aristotle. It's his personal insight, personal reflection or realization as he reads the works of these two great ancient philosophers. So the last time that we talked about Plato's Republic, I have already mentioned that Plato demonstrates what Aristotle explicates about society. That a city, according to Plato, he demonstrates that a city emerges because there is a need in every human being, and this need cannot be sufficiently addressed alone by himself, all alone by himself, in other words. So we have a lot of needs, and then we cannot address these needs sufficiently on our own. And you can actually read these texts in 369, book number 2. 369. What Aristotle explicates as friendship that is based on utility, because in ethics, Nicomachean ethics, Aristotle explicates about three kinds of friendship. That is to say, the first kind of friendship is friendship that is based on utility. You are useful to me, and so you are my friends. I am scratching your back, and so you have to scratch mine. In the same way, when Plato also demonstrates in this passage in the Republic, when he said that a city emerges because a human person has a lot of needs, and his own need cannot be addressed all alone by himself. And so I'm going to read it to you in 369. And Plato and Socrates asked this question. (369b) until 369e. 369e. So this is it. Probably, he said, when this has been done, can we hope to see what we're looking for more easily? Far more easily. Is it resolved that we must try to carry this out? I suppose it's no small job, so consider it. It's been considered, said Adeimantus. Adeimantus replied to Socrates, don't do anything else. Well then, I said, a city, as I believe, comes into being because each of us isn't self-sufficient. Each of us is not self-sufficient, but is in need of much. We have a lot of need, and we cannot address these needs adequately on our own. And so, people come together as a group. People come together in order for better survival, because a group can survive, can have a better survival rate when they are one, helping one another. Do you believe there is another beginning to the founding of the city? That is the question of Plato. Is there any other means why a city is being formed? Do you have any idea how a city is formed? Except of needs. Except of this need. And seemingly, I think Plato is very clear on this. It seems that there is no other way. That a city is formed because each one of us has a lot of need, and we cannot address this need on our own. Now, not at all, he said. So then, when one takes on another for one need, and another for another need, and since many things are needed, many men gather in one settlement as partners and helpers. Partners and helpers. And here, the basic idea of a city for Plato is that of equality. There is no superior and inferior in the first emergence of a city. A farmer is not inferior to the blacksmith. And the blacksmith is not inferior to the weaver. Or the weaver is not inferior to the farmer. Or the farmer is not inferior to the merchant or to the traders. In other words, in the first constitution of the city, there is no superior and there is no inferior, because everybody is equal. And we are equal because each one of us can be able to provide or can be able to address a certain kind of need. We can be of service to others. I can scratch your back, and so you have also the capacity to scratch mine. And this is actually the very definition of justice according to Simonides. Plato did not deny the validity of Simonides' definition. And you can find that. I would like to read it here in the Republic so that you can be able to cite, for example, when you write something, or so that you can be able to follow. So Simonides' definition of justice can be found in Book 1, number 31E. So tell me, you the heir of the argument. So Socrates said to Polemarchus, tell me, you the heir of the argument, I said. What was it Simonides said about justice that you assert, he said, correctly? So what is Simonides' definition? Just if you have the book, kindly follow it. So that it is just to give to each what is all. To give to each what is all, or to give what one receives, or to give what one takes, what is all. He said, in saying this, he said, a fine thing, at least in my opinion. It is because when you are of service to others, then the other person owes something from you. Owes something from you. He owed you a service. So if you are a farmer and you provide food to the blacksmith, then the blacksmith owed something from you. He receives something from you, or he takes something from you. And because of it, it had to be reciprocated. So the blacksmith also has to reciprocate what he receives, and that is actually justice according to Simonides. Giving back what one is owed, or giving what one takes, or giving back what one receives. So in other words, Plato did not deny the validity of that definition. But as what I have mentioned already, it is also inadequate. That is to say that it cannot be applied in all circumstances. It is because when your partner, when a blacksmith is not of his same mind, if the blacksmith is crazy, and he did not actually meant to serve you in accordance with his own skill and craftsmanship, he cheated, in other words. So the blacksmith made a plow which is not of good quality. He cheated. So does the farmer have also to give what is due to the blacksmith who cheated him, who did not create the best plow possible? So that is already a kind of injustice. Should the farmer also would pay it forward to other people? He who has been cheated by the blacksmith, should the farmer also pay what he received to others? Should the farmer also cheat, in other words? So instead of providing healthy and organic foods, we would give to the weaver a product which is produced by a lot of chemicals, a lot of insecticides, to the extent that the food is no longer healthy, but rather it is already very poisonous. So that is actually the problem of injustice.
But are altruistic feelings in that sense also be considered?
Altruistic feelings can be considered as what?
As one of the reasons why it cannot be applied to all circumstances.
Altruistic feeling. It's because it's a feeling, it's not a principle. It's nothing but a feeling. And so you cannot really apply that. It's because feeling cannot be applied to all. It's an altruistic feeling. But a principle which is based on reason, it is something that can be applied in all circumstances. For example, what you call this, giving what is due, or what you call the golden rule: do unto others as you want others do unto you. That is the golden rule. It is something based on reason. You can already see that there is truth to it, and that is actually the definition of justice in accordance to Simonedes' definition: do unto others as you want others, the things that you want others do unto you, or do not do unto others what you do not want others do unto you. So if you want to be treated well, don't cheat, in other words. Don't cheat. If you are a farmer, don't cheat when you are going to sell your products. Do not overprice it. Or else, the blacksmith also would overprice his or her services or his or her products. So that's the demonstration of Plato, what Aristotle explains. Because for Aristotle, the city is based on a friendship which is related to usefulness, which is related to being useful to everyone. So that is actually what Plato would say why there is a city. And so justice for Plato, therefore, is assuming a role. Whether you want to become a farmer, whether you want to become a merchant, whether you become a weaver, you have to assume a role in the society, because the role is your way of giving service to others. There is a movie entitled The First Night, and the main protagonist there is Sean Connery, who played the role as King Arthur, and Richard Gere is his first knight. And Richard Gere is a man with no city. He lives outside the city. He lives outside Camelot, because the city of King Arthur is Camelot. Lancelot lived in the village, and King Arthur lived in a city. And so King Arthur brought Lancelot into the round table of King Arthur. The round table of King Arthur is very famous of the knights and around the round table, something like that. The round table actually explains or shows that among his knights they are equal. In the same way with Plato, that all the members of the society must be equal. There is no superiority and there is no inferiority. Everybody is equal because everybody is responding to the needs of each one. They are just to each one. And so, King Arthur brought Lancelot into the heart of Camelot, which is the round table. And in the round table, it is inscribed there, in mutual service to one another, we become free. And King Arthur said, this is the very heart of Camelot. Camelot is not actually the building, or it's not actually the castle. It is not the fortified city. Camelot actually is a principle. It is a principle of justice. It is a principle of justice which echoes what Plato would say in the Republic, that in mutual service to one another, in mutual service, just like the farmer who is always in mutual service to the weaver, who is also a mutual service to the traders, who is in mutual service to the merchants, to the blacksmiths, and to all kinds of professions in the city, to the cook, to the makers of the plow, to the makers of the shoes, the shoemaker. All the professions in the city should be filled in, even the manicurists. So the farmer is in service to them. And so Plato would say, and so King Arthur in the movie, that in mutual service to one another, we become free. So a city is actually equal because everybody is in mutual service to one another. And that is the very source of our own freedom. When you are of service to others, then you are free. When you do not want to be of service to others anymore, when you do not like to assume a role in the society, when you do not want to become part of the society, because you do not become part of the society when you do not assume a role, when you do not assume a profession or a vocation, which is fitting to your own nature. And so Plato would always emphasize that your role must be in accordance to your nature, that which is fitting to you. And as what I have read it already, it can be found in 433b. And that is his understanding of social justice, 433b. And Plato said, I don't know, it's in 433a. 433a rather. And Socrates said, listen, whether after all I make any sense, I said, the rule we set down at the beginning as to what must be done in everything when we were founding the city, this or a certain formula is, in my opinion, justice. That is to say, social justice. Surely, we set down and often said, if you remember, that each one must practice one of the functions of the city, that one for which his nature made him naturally most fit. So you really have to discover your aptitude. So that is actually the task of the educator. So in the Republic, actually, it does not only deal with politics. It also deals with education. It also deals with ethics. It also deals with aesthetics, that is to say, about beauty. It also deals with religion. It is because for Plato, philosophical disciplines are not compartmentalized, which is completely different in our own understanding nowadays. Because for us, philosophy is something compartmentalized. But for Plato, philosophy is a unified whole. There is no compartment. But for us, philosophy is compartmentalized. Compartmentalized. That is to say that this is one compartment, this is another compartment, this is another compartment. For example, you have the question of metaphysics. Metaphysics is one compartment. And you have also another discipline of epistemology. You have also the ontology. And you have also aesthetics, beauty. But for Plato, this discipline they are not compartmentalized. They are one in a unified system. They are one. It's because they penetrate with each other. It's because you cannot compartmentalize your life. Because philosophy, beauty, for example, is completely related to your life. And as much as possible, when you do something, it must be beautiful. You must aspire always for the beautiful. Because love always aspires for the beautiful. love. If you really love something, you always love the beautiful. You do not love the ugly. You do not love the ugly. You do not love the ugly. And when you are going to read Plato's Symposium, for example, when you're going to love Plato's Symposium, to love is always to love the beautiful. To love is always to love the beautiful. And we make compensations, for example, when something is physically unattractive, for example, to a human person, we always want to see the beautiful in him or in her. It is because we realize that physical beauty is not enough for a lasting relationship. Always remember that. Physical beauty is not enough for a lasting relationship. And so we make compensations. Okay lang na hindi siya masyadong kagwapuhan. Pero mabusilat naman ang kanyang kalooban. Ha?
Still condition na gap. Kasi kunyari, even though she's not beautiful, tapos maglahat ang ibang maganda na tingin sa kanya.
Yes, actually, it's because that is the movement of love. You do not have love in its pristine form. There is always these stages. There is always these stages. Until when you can already love with no condition at all, so that is already love which is enduring. It's because there is no more reason.
Possible ba yan sa ating guys na makalap tayo na
Yes, of course, it is possible. It is possible for us. Love would be enduring. That is why many people would have partners for their lifetime. Partners for lifetime. So enduring, that is love which is enduring. And I hope you can find that kind of love. If you are not going to marry, so if you are going to become a religious, for example, because you realize that this is not your vocation, at least you can be able to find a love that is enduring. But first of all, the first stage of loving is always physical attraction. Physical attraction. It's because we are immediately caught by physical qualities. Oh, she has a very beautiful eyes. I like her eyes. Something like that. I like her bulottos boobs. Something like that. So those are always the beginning. Those are always at the beginning. But then we move. We always move up. We let the love in our words, in our own love. Because always Plato would say that we love those things which are beautiful. We do not love those things which are ugly. And as much as possible, when we perform something, when we do something, as much as possible, the outcome or the result of the things that we are doing would always be beautiful. Would always be beautiful. It is because it is close to your nature. It is something that is fitting to your nature. You have discovered your aptitude. You have discovered your ability. And so, you can be able to produce beautiful products, beautiful music, beautiful songs, beautiful architecture, if you are an architect, beautiful building, if you are an engineer, beautiful designs. In other words, these things are beautiful. It is because you discover your aptitude. You can produce a beautiful city. Wow, this city is so clean. It's so close to paradise. The city is very orderly. I like to live in this kind of city. So the city is produced because the ruler in that city discovered his aptitude to rule. Because Plato would always emphasize that ruling is not really meant for all, because not everyone has the aptitude to rule. So if you are a teacher and you find that it is your nature, it is close to your nature to teach, and so you can be able to teach beautifully, something that is very understandable to your student. It is not something far, far away from their world, but rather what you are talking to them is so clear, it is so close to your heart, you can easily resonate with them, and all of those things. It is because it is part of your nature. You discovered what is speaking to your nature. And Plato would add to his idea of justice as minding one's own business. That is minding your own business. That's justice for Plato, and it is actually in the continuation of his definition. And he said, yes, you were saying that. And further, that justice is the minding of one's own business and not being a busybody. You are a busybody. This we have both heard from many others and have often said ourselves. You have to mind your own business. If you are a farmer, that is your business. That is your business. Don't mind the business of the fisherman. Or don't mind the business because it is not your competence. It is not your expertise. But then, you really have to protest to the leaders if the leaders are not performing their responsibility. The rulers, if they do not provide you a farm-to-market road that hinders you to deliver your goods, it's because you cannot be of service to others. You are being hindered because there is no road. And so you really have to complain to the authorities. You really have to ask for it. You really have to ask for road because you cannot serve. And it is in that aspect that the rulers actually are not performing their responsibility. So to protest actually does not mean that you are already meddling, or another meaning for pakialam, meddle, to meddle. Not middle, middle is this. Middle is to be in the center, but to meddle is becoming a pakialamero. Nakikialam ka, wala ka namang kaalam-alam dyan. Huwag mo nang pakialaman kasi hindi ka naman magaling dyan. Huwag ka nang magsalita. Kasi hindi ko naman yan expertise. Farmer ka. So you don't need to talk about blacksmith or the art of forging iron, something like that. You don't talk about being a politician because that's not your expertise. You do not know those things. Only speak the things of which you know. And what is that? Farming. And if the rulers do not perform their responsibility, do not provide you with the necessary means in order for you to become of service to the community, then you really have to protest about it. I am a carpenter, but there is no construction in the Philippines. You should protest. That is my profession. There should be road widening. There should be bridges to build because I am a carpenter. You should make a protest to it. It is because the government is just putting all the money in their pockets. You should protest about those things. There is no road construction. There is no building of bridges. There is no investment. You cannot build, housing. Because that is my profession, to become a builder. That is my profession, to become a builder. So we really need to have a tunnel, what we call this, the subway system. Subway. And in Manila, they have already the subway. And in 2022, I think it will be completed, the first phase. And there should be, there should be line, there should be trains, lightweight, because we need to build those things. I am a carpenter. Because that is my profession. That is my way of becoming just. Because that is justice according to Plato. I am becoming just. I am serving to the society. And as much as possible, I should be compensated also justly, according to my own profession. I have to be compensated justly because I am serving to the community. So that's the idea of justice that is based on mutual service to one another, which Aristotle would say that friendship that is based on utility. So this is Plato's understanding of a just society. And it is so important that this structure should be maintained. And for him, it is necessary to invent a noble life. It is necessary to invent a noble life. So actually, you can find that in his idea of a noble life in 414c, if you have it. 414c. It is the notion of the noble life. It is the notion of the noble life because for Plato, society is composed of three. What do you call it? It's three parts. You have the ruling part. You have the ruling part, ruling. You have also the auxiliary. And you have also the workers. You have the workers. So the ruling actually, they are very few. And for Plato, they are the philosophers. They are the philosophers. And you have also the auxiliary, that is to say the enforcers. They are the auxiliary or the helpers of the philosophers. When you say philosopher, it is because Plato emphasized that the rulers would be lovers of wisdom, the lovers of knowledge. So if you do not want to study, you cannot be a ruler because you do not love learning. If you do not want to read, if you do not want to know, if you do not want to study, if you do not want to write something, you can never be a philosopher because you don't love learning. And if you only love philosophy, then Plato would also say that it is not true philosophy, because philosophy would always love all kinds of learning. And it is for this reason that the philosophers, when they are going to become the guardians of the city, they should be at the age of 50 already. At the age of 50. And you can find that in 540 AV, and I would like to read it. 540 A to B. And this is what Socrates would say. Don't worry about that, Socrates said. Set it down at 5. Now after this, they'll have to go down into that cave again for you. And they must be compelled to rule in the affairs of war and all the offices suitable for young men, so that they won't be behind the others in experience. And here too, they must still be tested, whether they will stand firm or give way when pulled in all directions. So how much time do you assign to this, he said. 15 years, I said. And when they are 50 years old, imagine, when they are 15 years old, those who have been preserved throughout and are in every way best at everything, both in deed and in knowledge. So I think President Ubet qualifies to this leader. President Duterte doesn't qualify. It's because he has a very weak body. He has a very weak body. But Putin is already around 70, but he's still very strong. Because for Plato, the guardian philosophers should be physically fit, very strong, because they are champions of war. They're champions of war. They must be physically fit, and at the same time, they must also be man of great intellect. They must be men of great intellect. So they must be physically fit, and at the same time, man of great intellect. And for Plato, it is not enough that philosophy should be studied by everyone. Philosophy must be studied only when you reach 30 years old. It must be studied only when you reach 30 years old. It is not meant for the young. That is why it is not meant for you still. It is not meant for you to study philosophy. That's according to Plato. That's according to Plato. You are not. It's because philosophy is a serious matter. Philosophy is a serious matter. Before you are going to study philosophy, you must be able to pass certain stages. And according to Plato, in 403B, before you are going to study philosophy, you must be able to study music. That is to say, the 9 muses, in other words, to study epic poetry, lyrical poetry, the 9 muses. It is because it is a preparatory for your mind. Before you embark into mental learning, you must prepare your mind. It is a prepageutic, in other words, the music. It is because, according to Plato, a good mind would always produce a good and sound body. And it can be found in 403B. 403B. And I would like to read it. So it is 403D rather, 403D. D. In this too, they must then receive a precise training from childhood throughout life. And it would, I believe, be something like this. And you consider it too. It doesn't look to me as though it's a sound body that by its virtue makes the soul good. It is not a good body that produces a good mind. But rather, it is the good mind that produces good body. So, for example, Valdez and Billidon, they do not have a good mind, according to Plato, because their body, their body is not physically sculptured. Their body is not physically sculptured. Their soul is not good. They have a very bad disposition in their soul. Their soul is immoderate. That because for Plato, the disposition of the soul reflects through your body. So if you have bodies like Villalon and Valdez, it means that they are immoderate. In other words, immoderate, they cannot control themselves eating. They are immoderate. And for Plato, immoderation means that you allow the desiring part to take hold and to take control of the calculating part. That is to say, the ruling part. In the same way, when in a society, you make the workers to rule the philosophers. the workers. Because for Plato, this is the hierarchy in the society. You have the workers, which it's because they should be many, because they are, they give life to the city. In other words, you have the farmer, the blacksmith, the cook, the merchants, the traders, you have the engineers, you have the architect, you have the everything. They are the workers. And in a society, the workers have a lot of desires. They have a lot of desires. They desire for food, they desire for pleasure, they desire for leisure, they desire for good things. A lot of desires. This is here. In the same way also in the human person, because Plato would now make an analogy of the society and the human person. Would make an analogy. That is to say that when your soul is governed by the desiring part, it only means that it will also reflect through your body. So you become fat, in other words. You will not be a muscle guy. It's because you don't exercise, you don't play, you don't run, you don't jog, and then you are very immoderate in your eating. You keep on eating and eating and eating, and so Plato will say that a good soul is reflected through your own body. So if you have a good soul, then you must have a beautiful body. Wow, that's a body. What a beautiful body you have. Muscular, matipuno. Wow, matipuno ang katawan. My abs, you have the abs. Just like, so that's actually that it is here. So it doesn't look to me as though it's a sound body that by its virtue makes the soul good. No. But the opposite. A good soul by its own virtue makes the body as good as it can be. So you have a good soul. It is because you can be able to control yourself. You can control yourself not to eat too much. And you can also force yourself to do some exercises. That is to say, the gymnastic. But actually, the gymnastic also is a preparation for military service. You have to be to train. You have to remember that during those times, war is always imminent. War is always at bay. And so the people must be healthy as much as possible, so that they can be able to defend their city, because it is the job of the citizen. To defend the city is the job of the citizen, because it is your city. It is like your house. You really have to defend your house when somebody would trespass into your house. It is your country, so the citizen must be able to defend the country. And so the citizens must be physically fit. They must be ready for war all the time. When China would attack us as much as possible, we are already physically ready. But then if you have bodies such as the body of a 100-kilo guy who is so big, very slow, we can easily be defeated with the Chinese who are Kung Fu masters. What the Kung Fu panda. The tiger. We are physically fit, but then we are so slow because we are immoderate in our own eating habits. We don't exercise. And sad to say that there is no more ROTC. The ROTC should be given a consideration indeed, because it is our war is always at the doorstep, especially when we are going to protect the sovereignty of our own country. But then yes. course, I'm in favor of the mandatory ROTC. But it should not be transformed into a fraternity. It should not be transformed into a fraternity. Because that is the thing that happened in our own country. The ROTC becomes a place or an occasion wherein one is being initiated into a particular group of people. And so you have hazing, you have maltreatment in the... But the ROTC must be able to provide a venue wherein we can be able to love our own country. We can be patriotic. It's because it's our country. It is not theirs. So as much as possible, we must be ready to defend. It is our home. And so Plato, in order to sustain this kind of system, he wanted to create, or he wanted to found it on a lie, not on a law. Because law is reason. This is something very important when you found something of reason. Because reason will always ask another reason. A reason will always ask another reason and another reason. But then if you are going to found a society on a lie which is noble, in other words, it is a myth. A myth can always evoke something noble in us. A myth. Particularly if it is a good myth. It is a good myth. It can evoke something noble in us. That is why for Carlo, for example, he has this, that sometimes myth is more important because it is foundational. It is the primeval time when it is the time when everything began. It is the time wherein we cannot retrace our origin, but then we believe that this myth is constituted of our own identity. So in 414, Plato proposed this kind of lie, and it is called the noble lie. 414 C. And I would like to read it. And then Plato said, in my opinion, that is what they should be called. Could we, I said, somehow try one of those lies that come into being in case of need, of which we were just now speaking about one noble lie? Do you follow? One noble lie to persuade, in the best case, even the rulers, but if not them, the rest of the city. That the lie actually is the foundational thing. That is to say, a myth. Because a myth is a lie. A myth is a lie. But it is a different kind of lie because it would uncover a truth in yourself. It would uncover a truth in yourself. In the movie V for Vendetta, there is a question which V asked to what was the name of the bird? And V asked this question: what is the difference between literature and politics? What is the difference between literature and politics? And he said that politics tells the truth, but actually it hides a lie. And literature tells a lie, that uncovers the truth. It's a wonderful statement. It's a wonderful statement. The politics tells the truth. Politics tells the truth. It is very factual. It is something that you can observe. But actually it hides a lie. And that is to say that it hides a particular interest of the ruling group. It's because there is dictatorship or an authoritarian regime in this world. And they keep on feeding propagandas. Propagandas actually are something that can be observed, something that can be verified. They are truthful, they are truthful narrative. But then they are truthful narrative with a twist in order to hide a particular lie of the regime. They want to make their power last. So that is the difference between politics and literature. It is different with literature because it tells a lie in order to uncover the truth. In order to uncover the truth. That is to say, for example, the novel of Noli Me Tangere. It is a lie. But then it uncovers truth. It uncovers corruption. It describes, in other words. It describes corruption. It describes reality through a lie. Because Crisostomo Ibarra is never a historical man. Padre Damaso is never real. Padre Sibila, Padre Florentino, Padre Fernandez. Padre Fernandez is the priest of Filibusterismo. And a lot of characters. Capitan Tiago, Piloso Contasio. Piloso Contasio is a mad Filipino because he cannot be understand. Because for us, philosophy is still something foreign. Philosophy is not something foreign to us. And so, Piloso Contasio is considered to be crazy because nobody understands him. So if nobody would understand you, then the people would consider you or would brand you as crazy. That guy is crazy. It's because he has a lot of learnings. He has a lot of learnings. Piloso Contasio. So in other words, literature tells a lie, but actually it uncovers a certain truth. It describes truth. So that's if you watch the movie V for Vendetta, try to be mindful of that scene where V and what is the name of that movie? V for Vendetta. But anyway, let's continue. So this is the lie which Plato would make. But this is the thing. Isn't there, could we, I said, now contrive one of those lies that come into being in case of need, of which we were just now speaking? Some one noble lie to persuade, in the best case, even the rulers, but if not them, the rest of the city? What sort of a thing? Plato said. Nothing new, I said, but a Phoenician king, which has already happened in many places before, as the poets asserted, and have caused others to believe, but one that has not happened in our time. And I don't know if it could, one that requires a great deal of persuasion. How like a man who's hesitant to speak, you are, I said. You'll think my hesitation quite appropriate too, I said. When I do speak, he said, and don't be afraid. I shall speak, and yet I don't know what I use for daring for. Speeches in telling it, and I'll attempt to persuade first the rulers and the soldiers. In other words, the rulers, the guardian philosophers. And I attempt to persuade first the rulers and the soldiers, then the rest of the city, and the rearing and education we gave them were like dreams. They were like dreams, the rearing and the education. They only thought they were undergoing all that was happening to them, while in truth, all that time, they were under the earth within. That is already the myth. That is already the lie. Being fashioned and reared themselves under arms and other tools being crafted. When the job had been completely finished, then the earth, which is their mother, the earth is their mother. In other words, the soil is our mother. The soil, that is to say, our homeland. This Mindanao, this is the soil. This is the soil that formed us. We are coming out from the soil. This is the soil that gives us identity. It is my mother. Mindanao, if you are coming from Mindanao, this is my mother. I am raised here. This soil is sacred to me. And I am formed together with my friends on this soil. We were reared by this soil. We are being fed by this soil. It is because the soil is so fertile. It is the soil that gives us food. For me, Mindanao is a sacred place. And because it is a sacred place, it is something that I have to defend when invaders will come. Because this is my mother. And I have to defend it. It is my own identity. It is my own identity. It is the land of which I am proud of. I am proud of my mother. Because this is my soil. This is the very breast that breastfeed me. This is the very breast that breastfeed me. This soil, Mindanao is my soil. And so anybody who is coming from Luzon who will try to dictate us what we are going to do, then I have really to fend them off. Don't try to dictate us. You are coming from Luzon. It is not your place. It is not your mother. You don't care anything about this place. It is because it is not your home. It is not your home. Why should you say something about this soil? Something that is ill and contrary to what I believe, which is good. Who do you say for us to say these things? This is not your land. Go back to your land and improve your land first. That is the very idea of Plato. That is to say, this land is sacred. It is my mother. And we were living together with my friends in the soil. And so I have to make the soil beautiful. I should not corrupt it. It is because this is my mother. Do I have to rape my own mother? Something like that. It is for this reason that foreign investors, actually, they are rapists of the soil. Greatness of the land. It is because they extract something. They don't care actually about what will happen in Mindanao. What they care is about their riches. They are rapists, in other words. They are rapists. They don't care anything. They don't care about the beautiful scenery. What they care is the minerals in there. And so they wanted to extract everything and destroy the landscape. What happened to the beautiful landscape? What happened to my mother? It has been raped. It has been ravaged. So Plato would make that myth as very foundational. That is a myth. It is not true. Are you sure? It is not true that the soil is your mother. Your mother is a woman. It can never be a soil. But then the myth tells something noble, something great, because it allows you to defend it. It allows you to become a better person. It allows you to defend your own soil, because it is your money. It is something that you really have to take care of. You have to take care of it. And so it is a noble lie. It's a lie. It's a myth. That is why it is a myth. So, that is the idea of Plato. Why he would propose a noble lie? It is because reason cannot provide this thing. Reason cannot provide this thing. Because reason will always ask for another reason. Why should I live? And reason will always be. And so the myth, the noble lie, would make the foundation, the narrative, in other words. It's a narrative of a particular group of people. So, and now, as though the land they were in were a mother and nurse, they must plan for and defend it. You must defend your land. And it is for this reason when our leaders do not have this sense of understanding. When the guardians of the city do not have that understanding that the soil is their mother, that Mindanao is their mother. So they would also participate in the rating of the soil, in the rating of the land. They don't care. They don't care whether the land will be ravaged or will be destroyed. They don't care about it. And so they would cooperate in the intention of those who are outside of the land. Because why should I care? It is not my mother. It is not the soil. It is not my soil. So they don't care at all. So Plato said, it wasn't, he said, for nothing that you were for so long ashamed to tell a lie. And Plato said, that's a very noble lie indeed. It's a very noble lie. There's nothing wrong with it. So why should you be hesitant of telling that kind of lie? And Socrates said, it was indeed appropriate, he said. All the same, hear out the rest of the tale. So this is the rest of the lie. All of you in the city are certainly brothers. All of you in the city are certainly brothers. Aristotle has this kind of understanding of friendship, which is friendship that is based on virtue. Friendship that is based on virtue. And it is virtue that will make all of the citizens in a particular city brothers and sisters. It is virtue that makes them. It is because you have common virtue, you have common values, you have common ideals. And so you become brothers and sisters. How come that we are brothers of Jesus? We are considered as brothers and sisters of Jesus. Because we share the same values of Jesus. The values of Jesus, we want them to become also our values. We want to live it out. And so, we become brothers and sisters in Christ. You see? So Jesus Christ, therefore, is the very glue that unites us together. We become brothers and sisters because we want to live the same values as Christ. The same ideals, the same thinking as much as possible. And so we consider ourselves to be brothers and sisters in Christ. In the same way with Plato's faith. Plato's faith. Of course, we're not really brothers and sisters by blood. We're completely different. And Aristotle will say that it is what you call friendship that is based on virtue. And that is the deeper kind of friendship. It is the most important. And as much as possible, we must have this kind of understanding in a society. We have these common values. Because it is through our values that we become brothers and sisters. And as Christians, we become brothers and sisters to one another in Christ because we want to live the values of Christ. We want to make the values of Christ very real in our own society, in our own very life. So, Plato's tale or noble lie is very good. It's very insightful. And so he said these things. He continued. All of you in the city are certainly brothers. We shall say to them in telling the tale. So it is not anymore friendship that is based on utility. It is no longer I scratch your back and you scratch mine. But Plato is going deeper. If we are going to make a diagram of a society, a Platonic society. For example, if this is society, and there is what you call this concentric circle. So this is friendship based on utility. Friendship based on utility. And this is what you call equality, because one is in mutual service to one another. One is in mutual service. The farmer is in mutual service to the carpenter. The carpenter is serving also to the weaver, to the farmer, and to the merchants, the architect, the engineer, the lawyers, the doctors. All of these professions are what you call friendship that is based on utility. They are very useful in the functioning of the society. So that is the concentric. But then, when you are going to go down, this is what you call the friendship that is based on virtue. Friendship based on virtue. And here, all of you are brothers. You are equal because you have the same values. And then the second concentric circle is what you call the friendship that is based on passion. Friendship that is based on passion. Friendship that is based on passion. That is to say, your common likes and common dislikes. I do not like to become, I do not like, what do you call this? I do not like fishing, for example. I do not like fishing. So therefore, we will not be of friends of those people who want fishing. But then, that kind of life must not be able to hinder you to go inner, to go inward. You must be able to transcend that difference of yours to the extent that despite the fact that you do not like fishing, but since you share common values, you still consider them as your friends. You still consider them as your friends. It's because you have different likes. I do not like macaroni. Why should you force me to eat macaroni? I like tiramisu more than macaroni. Why should you force me to eat that food? That is not my life. Or I do not like mountain climbing. I do not like mountain climbing. I prefer biking. Or I prefer jogging. Why should you force me to have the same life as yours? But as much as possible, you should always transcend your difference by saying that you still share common values. Particularly important values, which is the very core. That is what you call friendship that is based on utility. And Plato is explaining it here in his noble lie, that all of you are brothers because you share common ideals. All of you are brothers. You share common ideals, common virtue. And what are the virtues of the city according to Plato? The four virtues, the most important virtues in the city, the just city. The first virtue is wise. See, wise, courage, moderation, and justice. So these are these four, and justice. These are the four virtues which are very constitutive in a Platonic society. And courage means for Plato, what does courage mean? It can be found in 429. Before I continue the reading that time, I will pull up. It is in 429. So this is understanding of courage. So courage, therefore, is a certain kind of preserving. You have to preserve the values of the society. You must be able to uphold it. You preserve it to the extent that when somebody would try to mock it, you should uphold it. When you mock a particular values, then you should be able to uphold it. Particularly values which is very central in a just society. So you must be able to uphold. You must be able to preserve the opinion. It is because it is the opinion of the city. And when you mock your parent, for example, when you mock your parent, for example, you disrespect your parent, and you are a friend, you should be angry. I do not like what you are doing. It's because I have to uphold the fact that we have to respect our parents. We do not have the right to inflict suffering to our parents or to retaliate. No matter how unjust our parents will be, still we have to respect them. We have to respect them. And in order to avoid any confrontation, you should be the one to make some space in others, so that you are not going to fall into the temptation of hurting your parents. Particularly, it's because our parents also are not very perfect. They are not perfect. And so sometimes it is very important that we know how to distance ourselves, so that we can still preserve our own respect to them. In order to avoid some circumstances and all those things. So that's the idea of Plato about courage. That you have to preserve a certain kind of opinion, particularly opinion which is so important in the society. And you should not allow others to mock it or to insult it. You have to uphold it, to preserve it. And so we go back to the idea of the noble life which Plato narrated. And he said this way: all of you in the city are certainly brothers. We shall say to them in telling the tale. But the God, in fashioning those of you who are competent to rule, makes gold in at their birth. This is why they are most honored. In auxiliaries, silver, and iron and bronze in the farmers and the other craftsmen. So because you are all related, although for the most part you produce offspring like yourselves, it sometimes happens that a silver child will be born from a golden parent, a golden child from a silver parent, and similarly all the others from each other. Hence, the God commands the rulers first and foremost to be of nothing, such good guardians, and to keep over nothing, so careful a watch as the children, seeing which of these metals is mixed in their souls. And if a child of theirs should be born with an admixture of bronze or iron, by no manner of means are they to take pity on it, but shall assign the proper value of its nature and thrust it out among the craftsmen or the farmers. And again, if from these men one should naturally grow who has an admixture of gold and silver, they will honor such ones and lead them up, some to the guardianship group, others to the auxiliary, believing that there is an oracle that the city will be destroyed when an iron or bronze man is its guardian. So, have you some device for persuading them of this tale? So that is the tale of Plato, which means that parental origin is not the guarantee of leadership. Parental origin. It doesn't mean that when you are coming from a gold family, that is to say, gold, that you are the ruler. If you are coming from the ruler family, then you should also become a ruler. Because what if in the golden family, it is being born a bronze child? That is to say, he is a worker child. And so, it is not fitting that the bronze child shall be able to rule. So Plato actually is saying that one parental origin does not guarantee that they shall be able to succeed in the guardianship of the city. If you are coming from a poor family, but then you have a golden soul, then Plato would say that you should be able to rule. It is not because you are poor that you should not rule us. It is not your family origin should not be the hindrance. In other words, your family origin should not be the hindrance in order for you to lead the city. And if you are coming, for example, if you are coming from a silver family, from the auxiliaries, in other words, if you are coming from the auxiliary family, and they are silver, but then you have the golden soul, so the golden guardians must be able to encourage the boy to take up also the leadership because he has the golden soul. In other words, it is a Platonic tale that entails meritocracy. Meritocracy depends upon your capability. Meritocracy. Meritocracy. It is not because of your family origin that you should lead us. That is to say, you are coming from a royal family, for example. Your father is a king and a queen. But for Plato, it doesn't mean that because you are coming from that origin of family, you should already become a guardian of the city. That you should already become the leader. It doesn't necessarily follow because perhaps your nature is not appropriate to the job. It is not fitting to you. Perhaps your soul is bronze in character. Perhaps your likings actually is for farming, for blacksmith, for a lawyer, for example, for being a doctor, for being an agriculturist, for example, or being an architect. Those things are the bronze soul, the bronze character, because they are the working. They maintain the city and sustain the city to make it functional. The guardians are the ones who try to make the city stable, that it shall not be corrupted. And you have the guardians who would help you in guarding the city, the auxiliaries, the helpers. Maybe nowadays they are considered to be cabinets. If you have the guardian of the city and he has a lot of auxiliaries, and the auxiliaries also have another auxiliaries, helpers in other words, in order to maintain the integrity of the city, that it shall not be corrupted. Because as much as possible, the city must be thriving. must be vibrant. And so that is the idea of Plato, why he tells this lie. Why he tells this lie. So that it does not give a privilege to the royal family. It does not give the privilege to the silver family. If you are a silver family, it doesn't necessarily follow that you are going to become an auxiliary immediately to the city. And the same way as when you are coming from the bronze family, it doesn't mean that you become a worker. Because according to Plato, the God sometimes would allow that a golden child shall be born in the bronze family. In the bronze, the worker, the working class. Or sometimes the golden child also can be born also in the silver family, in the silver group. And sometimes in the golden family, an auxiliary also can be born there, the silver child, the bronze child. So those are the tale which Plato would give. And it is a tale that would make the city rest on a mythical foundation. It rested, the city, the just city of Plato, rested on a mythical foundation. It's a noble lie. It is not founded on laws. It is not founded on laws, but it is founded on a myth. Just like Camelot. Camelot, according to Arthur, is nothing but a mere idea. It's a myth. Camelot. It's a principle. Foundation. So any questions regarding the noble lie and Plato's understanding of justice? It's already 10:30. I would like to end this class. Any questions, clarifications? None? None? So thank you very much. Bless our stand. Glory to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
Was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit.